Welcome to The Shed Wireless, a podcast for shedders, hosted by John Paul Young and produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
Hello and welcome back to the Shed Wireless podcast, made in Australia and distributed all over the world for the love of shedding. We hope you had a safe and happy holiday season. We all did here. And we're thrilled to be kicking off with episode 1 of season 7. Can you believe it? Here's what we'll be talking about this episode. I chatted to some friends of men's sheds in Canberra at a recent event. Marty's talking to Michael Maxworthy from the Pambula shed in Shedder in the Spotlight. I'll let you know what we're doing differently in On the Road this season. And in On the Tools, we meet Guy Michela from the Sandford shed in Queensland, who's giving his tools a good workout on a special project. That sounds interesting. Finally, Rip Woodchip is here to talk to us about maintenance on your brain. Okay, let's get cracking. A few weeks ago, we headed down to Canberra for a celebration of the bipartisan Parliamentary Friends of Men's Shed. I had a chat with a few of our very vocal supporters who came down to enjoy a sausage sizzler and took a look at some displays from the local sheds and have a chat. I spoke to Sharon Claydon, Federal Member for Newcastle, Rob Mitchell, Federal Member for McEwen in Victoria, Karen Andrews, MP and Member for McPherson in Queensland. Let's hear what they have to say. Sharon, what's your impression of the Men's Shed and what they do?
Oh, well, I'm super lucky coming from Newcastle because I get to host the national office of the Men's Shed, plus all of the local ones. So I've got guys who are doing great community garden work, building and repairing things, being out in schools, helping in a whole lot of community-based organisations. Yep. And I think importantly, there's not a lot of places where men get together that's not around, alcohol otherwise. So I actually think this is a really, really good alternative space for men to gather, communicate, just talk and have fun too.
It's hard to imagine what it was like before them, to be honest, when I think of it,
Yeah.
Because there really was nothing, like you say, except for the pub.
I think people went to the pub and that, I understand that it was a good place for some people, but it's not always a good place for everyone.
Which sheds have you been to lately?
Well, I was with the Ellamore men's shed just the other night.
Yeah.
They were having one of their meetings, so I caught up with those guys. The Newcastle men's shed I still have quite a lot to do with. Blue Gums and Ellamore Vale men's shed's very, very active little space, so they were always, as is the Newcastle men's shed actually, they've both been really active. Had to move home a lot of the times. They didn't have a secure base for a while. Yeah. But I think people are feeling a lot more settled now.
Yep. No, it certainly is an amazing asset for the community as well as what they do for men's health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've really loved, actually, the Newcastle men's shed's made a big effort to reach out to boys. Mm-hmm. And
I think that's very important. Yeah.
They've been doing some really good stuff with kids at school, like boys at school, who benefit from a bit of hands-on education, working with these men who are often like brilliant tradesmen.
Absolutely. Some of the backstories of these men are just amazing. Yeah, and you wouldn't know. Some of them were, very, very much captains of industry and now they're just in there playing with a bit of wood.
I know.
It's lovely.
I met some young guys who all want to be, mechanics. They love their cars and tinkering around, and they got to work with some men who are just brilliant mechanics. You know? And I think unlike the classroom that they're used to at school, this is very practical, very hands-on. They can ask all the questions they ever wanted, and they're going to learn a lot of really old-school skills and expertise. And
learning some new swear words, no doubt.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sharon. I'll let you get back to your steak sandwich.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Rob, what's been happening here in Parliament for you?
First week back this year, it's been hectic. I'm going to admit a bit not much fit. Full days, they sort of tire out a bit, but one of our big focuses has been making sure that our event today, which is the Parliamentary Friends Group of Men's Shed, goes off without any hitch. And what we see as we stand here today, for those listening, we've got people lined up coming in to get something to eat, have a look at what the sheds have brought in, but also just share some time together. It's one of these great events that's bipartisan.
Yep.
We all chip in, we all help, we all know the importance of it, we all know the benefit of it, and we all want to share in the glory.
And what a great magnet barbecues are.
You can't go wrong, can you? It's one of a sausage and onion, and that's it. The world's good. No matter what's happening, it's all good. And, you know, the smiles on the faces here. And just if I could say, with a lot of these friendship groups and events, you often get a few people turn up, roll in and out. This event is always a big one because everyone wants to be part of it and see what goes on. And I know the sheds that come in from the ACT are having an absolute ball. They've got their wares on display. Most of us walk past and think, I have enough trouble sharpening a pencil. These guys are making magnificent things for the community. And it's fantastic. Our jobs are busy. We do a lot of mental stress, and we know that the way to relieve that sort of thing is to find something positive that you can do that relaxes you and calms. It's like what we say with Men's Shed. A lot of people that are disengaged or live alone, they're stressed up, they can go down to a shed. Doesn't matter if you can't sharpen a pencil. It's that social camaraderie. It's that sitting around, having a chat, having a cup of tea, talking to people, getting involved, and you take the opportunity to learn things.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. Good luck with your vehicle.
Thanks, mate.
And good luck with your fishing.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it, mate.
Bye. Here with Karen Andrews. So, Karen, tell me about your interest in men's sheds. What makes you happy about them?
So I'm the member for McPherson on the southern Gold Coast, and we do have a couple of men's sheds there.
Yep.
I've been and visited them as often as I can, quite frankly, to be there, and they've taught me a lot about woodworking as well whilst I've been there, so I've enjoyed that. But what I really like is the camaraderie amongst the men who are there, and it is so important for men to have an opportunity to be together, to talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest takeaway from the men's sheds, about how important it is to give men an opportunity to come together as men to talk about what is of interest to them.
It's hard to imagine a world without them now because they really have done so much.
Oh, look, absolutely. They really have. And talking to the men at the men's sheds that I've been there to as well, I mean, they love it. Give them the reason to get out of bed. They go along, they see their mates, they have a good old yarn. Maybe they have a cup of tea, but they make some things and they go away very happy and looking forward to the next time that they can get back, which is often every single week. Yeah, that's right. And they come out of their shell and they actually talk about men's problems, which, as we all know in the past, it just didn't happen. Exactly. And to give them an opportunity to talk on their own terms is the most significant thing. So no one's there firing questions at them saying, you know, how are you feeling, what are you doing, blah, blah, blah. They just talk when it's the right time for them to be able to do it. For some it's on their first day, I believe. For others it takes a while for them to be comfortable, but they all still talk.
Oh, lovely to talk to you, Karen. And, keep up the good work, and whenever the subject of finance comes up, vote for us.
Indeed, lovely to meet you. And thank you for what you do.
Not a problem at all, thank you.
Shedder in the Spotlight. Let's find out who the spotlight is on today.
One of my favourite things is to find out what's happening in different sheds. And our resident handyman, Marty Least, is doing just that in Shedder in the Spotlight. Marty, who are you talking to today?
I'm talking to Michael Maxworthy from the Pambula Men's Shed. First of all, Michael, where the hell is Pambula?
If you know where Sydney is, you head to Bondi, jump in the water and swim about 600 kilometres. And it's just before Pambula. It's about 60k from the Victorian border on the coast.
Right. And how far from the coast did you say?
Pambula's it's inland a smidgen. It's probably about 4k from the actual ocean, the Tasman Sea. But it's south of Sydney and, just above the Victorian border. Yep.
Sounds like a nice part of the world, mate.
It is idyllic. It is a wonderful climate, relatively unspoiled, lots of national parks, lots of beautiful water. If you wanted to, and people have done it, they have had a surf in the morning, jumped in their car and ducked up the hill up to Kosciuszko and skied in the afternoon.
You're joking.
No.
Joking. Unbelievable.
That's very easy.
I have someone sent me a couple of photos of the shed, and I noticed one of these photos, you've got a pool table in there, and there's a heater under the pool table. Is that to keep your balls warm? What did you do before the shed?
I was a school teacher at the local high school.
Yeah, right. What did you teach?
I was what's called an industrial arts teacher.
Ah,
When I started, it's gone through lots of names since. I think it's a TAS teacher now, technical and applied science or something like that. But in the old money, woodwork, metalwork, tech drawing, all those type of things.
brilliant. So that sort of ties into why we're having a chat to you today, because you do some of it. You're still,
Yeah,
for all intents and purposes, you're still doing a bit of teaching, aren't you, at the
I,
shed? From what I've
I
heard.
am. I am. A slightly different cohort, and
What, these students listen?
sometimes. Uh, it's lovely. I do have to change my style a bit. You can be a bit more direct and
Yeah,
authoritarian with kids.
yeah,
Uh, with the old blokes, you got to be patient
yeah.
and a bit understanding. But it is. I get a lot of pleasure out of it, and they get a lot of joy out of it too, which is lovely.
I often tell the story of, how people come to the shed, and I see it all the time, blokes that have never worked with wood before in their lives, and they join the shed and they come there and they get on something like, and I always use the wood lathe as an example because it's such a cathartic exercise,
Yeah.
but they find a whole new lease on life, don't they?
Oh,
It's,
very much so, and it's one of those things where with a little bit of guidance and they develop their skills and their techniques, very quickly, and the joy that they get from producing something that invariably they give to some family member and so on. It's just wonderful. I've got into the habit of taking a photo of them and their job, and we
brilliant.
mainly do bowls, but we do pens as well. Um, and it's a bit of show and tell. They'll be there, sort of proudly holding up their bowl, and take a photo of it. And yeah, it's good.
Well, even the practice of mindfulness, I think, can relate to using a timber lathe, a wood lathe. Sorry, as mate, you're just so immersed in what you're doing. You're so focused for a couple of hours or so.
Oh,
Can't you? So
it is, yes. Like, it's a bit zenish, I guess.
absolutely,
And like, in my life, I've probably done, I don't know, 300, 400 bowls, whatever. And, but I still get a buzz out of doing it, And with YouTube, which wasn't around when I was in the teaching game,
yeah,
some of the things that the people do there, and you look at it and you think, oh, yeah, I think we can have a go at that. So you constantly sort of improving upon what you can do. It's not just throw a lump of wood on and just sort of, you know, put a
yeah,
gouge on it and see what turns out.
yeah, yeah.
You can just make some wonderful, wonderful pieces. And as I say, the beauty of it is that they get given away to friends and family, and that's pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. To make a gift is so much, more
Yeah, of course.
appreciated,
Yeah, of
and
course. Yes. Yeah.
it's like you say, the YouTube thing. Like so many shedders are using the YouTube now just to learn
Oh, yeah.
new skills and things. But you go to a men's shed, you see some of the works that are produced, you think, oh, I could never do that. But you know what? After a little bit of work and a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of support from someone like yourself, absolutely anyone can do it, can't they?
Very much so.
Yeah,
And they do. And the body language when they finish it, is just it's just a joy to behold.
yeah,
I do, however, stress to the men that turning on a wood lathe is very much a hand and a hand-eye thing,
yeah,
and you're never ever far away from a disaster.
yeah,
It, I use the analogy that we can ride a bike, and that's fine for normal, but to ride a bike on one wheel is a bit like wood turning because
yeah,
you're always on that edge, of going one way or the other.
yeah.
And but we haven't really had any throwaway disasters. We've had some hiccups, and we've had to modify after, but we've still ended up with something that's practical and tangible after it. Yeah.
How did you come to start teaching? Or do you actually have set lessons, or you just go along
No,
and you sort of say, "Hey,
no,
mate, do you
no,
want me
no.
to show you?" Or people come and ask you, "Can you just show me how to do this?" Or
Yep. I started off, reasonably modest, but I started off doing bowls myself, and it was a bit like, bees to the honey. Blokes started, oh, that's interesting, and then, and I encouraged them, and we played around, and then it's got a little bit. There's a real buzz around the wood lathe area in our shed now. There's always something happening, and blokes are always popping in and having a little look. And then, I think I can have a go at that. You reckon you can help me? That type of thing. It really does have an energy of itself now, and
Absolutely.
which is great. Yeah,
And like a wood lathe is not foreign to a men's shed. Like pretty much every shed has a wood lathe in it, but it does represent a whole lot about that shed, and just about anyone can do it, sort of thing. I remember I was at Redland Bay in Queensland near Brisbane once, and there was a gentleman there. He was blind, and he was turning bowls on a wood lathe. Not recommended, but he taught himself to do it, and and just absolutely brilliant work he was doing, because it's all a lot about the feel and things like that. So many senses are used.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we have actually two members who have visual issues. Neither has approached me yet to have a go on the lathe, but I think I could manage something with them. Anyway.
Brilliant. So, mate, do you get as much out of it now as you did when you were teaching in the high school and the industrial arts?
Yes, probably more so. It's a generalisation, but kids are takers. They're not givers. Yeah. They basically, you do something for them, and you're lucky to get a thank you.
Yeah.
Generalisation. The men gush, and oh, Mike, thanks very much, all that type of stuff, and do appreciate them saying that. So it's different circumstances.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too much on the teaching, but because I've lived here for so long now, 50 years, I came here in 74, 51 years. And I have, ex-students who were absolute terrors, mainly boys at school, who, made life difficult just by being themselves.
Yeah. And now, I think I could have been one of those in my day. Yeah. Anyway,
you may have been, but nowadays I see them in and they've grown into lovely men, and that they, in actual fact, some of them have come and got involved in the men's shed because they're old enough, and it's completely different. So they've gone through this stage of becoming from a boy to a man, and they're very much appreciative. But when they're a boy, as I said, they tend to take and not necessarily give very much.
Michael, I love these conversations, and I know these are short little interviews for the podcast, but I could talk to you for hours, because there's so many things out of just this little conversation. It's about the reward you get from the teaching and the gift of giving, and what you get from the shed personally. It's not just sheds just aren't about the woodworking and building toys and making stuff. It's the interaction you have with other people and what you get out of that, and what they're getting from that interaction as well is just incredible. And I guess the message to anyone that hasn't joined a shed or is thinking of joining a shed, just do it, because you don't have to go in there with a skill set. You go in there to learn new things.
And the skills that are in there, in the men, like most of them have profession in some way, shape or form, and they love to talk about it and love to show people. Yeah.
Yep. And what they're going home with and showing their families, and they're probably making a bowl to give away to someone for Christmas time. It's almost going back to childlike sort of thing.
To make something for someone really is very special.
Brilliant. I made my dad an ashtray out of a piece of clay once, mate. He treasured it. He told me he did anyway.
Hopefully he stopped smoking now.
Mate, he's gone. The smoking quit him, I think. So yeah.
Oh right. Okay, good.
Mate, thank you so much. And I'd love to come down to Pambula one day. And I encourage anyone to check out your Facebook page too, the Pambula Men's Shed. Check it out. Plenty of photos on there, and we'll put some photos on our socials as well to complement this little chat, mate. So thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Marty, and all the best for what you do, okay?
Thanks, mate, and keep up the absolutely fantastic work you do.
Right, yeah. Take care.
We acknowledge the Thawa people, who are the traditional owners of the Yuin country on which the Pambula Men's Shed sits. The name Pambula comes from the Thawa word Pambula, which means twin waters. The Thawa people use the rich floodplain of the Pambula River for food, shelter and spiritual connection.
On the road,
on the Shed Wireless.
This year in On the Road, we're doing something completely different. We're going to do a virtual road trip around Australia. And we want to know, if we were on a road trip, why should we come and visit your town? What makes your area great? What places should we make sure we don't miss? If you'd like to be on the Shed Wireless spruiking your hometown, send us an email at theshedwireless@menshed.net and let us know what you reckon we should know about, and you could be the next On the Road interviewee. On the Pulse on the Shed Wireless. Well, in On the Pulse today, Stuart has got some very important news for shedders, especially those who are engaging in metalwork. G'day, Stuart.
Thanks, JPY, and g'day, everyone. I'm Stuart Torrance, Shed Development Coordinator, Wellbeing and Health, and you're listening to On the Pulse, where we discuss anything and everything to do with health and wellbeing. We have dust extractors and air cleaners in our woodworking areas, and we know these wood particles are the cause of many lung conditions later in life. But what about welding fumes? For me, it was never an unpleasant smell and indicated to others that I'd been working. But what had it been doing to my lungs? What are the work health and safety rules? What effects do welding fumes have on us? And what should we do about it? Our special guest today is Chris Chilman from AWS, that's Apex Welding Services, and he's going to take us through some of our questions on welding gases and the unknown enemy. Welcome, Chris, to On the Pulse.
G'day, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, mate. Mate, this was interesting because I was first made aware of the new regulations regarding welding fumes through the AWS e-newsletter. Can you tell us more about the new regulation?
Yeah, sure. So we've always had a workplace exposure standard in Australia for welding fumes, and that limit was 5 milligrams per cubic metre over a time-weighted average of 8 hours. So on January 13th last year, that exposure standard was reduced by 80% to 1 milligram per cubic metre. So that brings us down in line with much of Europe and Netherlands and Germany. So this means that the average concentration of welding fume per square metre should not exceed 1 milligram per cubic metre in an 8-hour day. So if you're doing a longer shift, such as a 10-hour day, that would reduce to 0.8 milligrams per cubic metre, or if you do a 12-hour day, down to 0.66 cubic metres.
80% change. So obviously the regulators have seen some damaging aspects of welding fumes. That's a huge jump from what we used to have to what we have today.
Yeah, so look, welding fume it's extremely bad for your health, and workplaces have to protect their workers as well and need to be aware of the risks and take the necessary measures to prevent it. So in the welding industry, it's always been known that, welding fumes are definitely something you want to be avoided, and anyone who's probably inhaled these fumes knows the discomfort you experience when you're overexposed to them. And excessive exposure to welding fume can cause multiple types of cancer, so lung cancer, larynx, urinary tract cancer, bronchial asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, stomach ulcers, kidney damage, nervous system damage. So also welders present on average a 43% increased risk of lung cancer when compared with those who've never welded or been exposed to welding fume. And this increased risk of lung cancer, it is regardless of what type of welding you're doing, the welding process, or anything regarding your smoking habits. So there's a lot of nasty stuff mentioned here, but I suppose the important thing to mention is that, welding should still be considered a safe occupation with the correct PPE and extraction equipment. But what sort of triggered it was back in 2017, the International Agency for Research on Cancer reclassified it from a possible carcinogen, 2B, to a known carcinogen, group 1.
But does it still concern us when we're only doing maybe a quick welding job, maybe putting together a trailer or building something, and we're only welding for 10, 15 minutes at a time?
Look, I think given the fact that it is a group 1 carcinogen, so it's in the same category as asbestos and silica, which has had a lot of attention over the last few years, and there's been all the cases around everything around asbestos, especially, and more so silica now. I mean, it tells you that it's pretty nasty, and there's probably not really a safe level of welding fume that you can consume, and any measure you can take to avoid it is best practice. So, like, the workplace exposure standard isn't put in place to say it's safe for you to go and consume welding fume as long as you're under this level. It is a carcinogen that it attacks your lower and upper respiratory systems in different ways. So there's not really a safe way, and you need to be keeping yourself what it says as low as practically possible. So if you can avoid it, you should be doing everything in your power to avoid it.
Okay, so Chris, what kind of things are there? Give us an overview of the systems available to combat the issue. Like, if you can give us a ballpark figure on implements that are available to us.
What we do as a business, we specialise in PAPR respiratory systems, is what we've been specialised in for a long time. So that's the number one way to protect just the welder.
So that's individual respiratory units that are, say, attached to a helmet.
Yeah, so PAPR is powered air purifying respirator. So it takes the air out of your environment, filters it, and provides you clean, purified air inside your helmet, which by the standard has to be a minimum of 50 times better than what's outside the system. But that's sort of that's the best way to protect the welder themselves. But then what we've had a huge focus on lately as well is a lot of workshops will have, you might have a mechanical fitter or a diesel fitter or a quality control person walking around in that workshop, and he's still potentially breathing a level of welding fume that's over that workplace exposure standard. So that brings into the light a need for engineering controls, and they come in a few different options. So we could have local exhaust ventilation, which is like mobile filter systems with a hood that captures it. It could be a built-in system which has hoods that come down and extract through a central system. Or it could be an on-gun fume extraction system, which is what has largely become more popular because it captures the fumes right at the source before it comes airborne into the workshop.
So, Chris, if I can just clarify, so you were talking about a hood system, like an extraction system, a bit like what you would get on your cooking stove in the home, and it actually draws the fumes out and away. Therefore, making sure the whole room is. A lot of sheds have a very small metalworking shop, a very small area to work in. And maybe this is a little more efficient than just a personalised helmet for one individual.
Yeah, there's a few challenges that you face if you go with just the fume extraction system hood above the welding zone.
Yeah,
the welder is generating welding fume, and it has to drift past his breathing zone to get to the capture hood. So that's why the concentrations of welding fume can be so high in the breathing zone, just given that that's where your head has to be. So we've sort of always advised that the best thing to do is be wearing a PAPR system if you are welding, or some form of respiratory protection, and then secondly, engineering controls, which can be that hooded capture or the on-torch fume extraction, which is proven to be the most effective way of capturing the fumes.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Does AWS website give us more information on this issue? I really do think that sheds should investigate what their options are. So it gives a full list of products available and how to combat the problem.
We've got our website, which is apexweldingsafety.com.au. And on there, you'll find a full list of product brochures, industry literature. There's even a product selector tool, which helps you go through a series of questions about your workplace and application before giving you a range of product options. You'll also find our full list of speed glass, PAPR, there's LEV fume extraction, on-torch fume extraction, and there's a really popular new product, Stuart, called the AeroGuard, which is a a mobile fume monitor as well. So this has been popular because a lot of businesses, they don't know whether they're 5 milligrams per cubic meter on average or 1 milligram per cubic meter. And before rolling out all this expensive equipment, it's quite good to understand what the welding fume levels are on when you're doing certain tasks. So that Irrigarde's on our website as well, which is very popular. And failing any of that, all our list of technical sort of specialists right across the country, all their contact names are on there, and these guys can be contacted for help if you want our guys to come out and visit you and sort of address your individual work sites and get you the right advice and right products.
Great service to have. I think we should point out as a matter of urgency that it's important sheds address the issue and seek the solution as quick as they can. With that in mind, I would recommend sheds look at the grants such as the NDSP and community grants to implement these systems to eliminate this insidious enemy. Chris, any last comments before we go?
No, that was great. Thanks, Stuart. But I'll just say to anyone that just feel free to reach out to us at our website. We've got a bunch of contact numbers for our local representatives as well, and you can call or email through our website, and we'd be happy to help out. And thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thanks very much. And it's been interesting conversation on the Pulse today. Back to you, JPY.
Thanks, Stuart. It certainly is worth sheds taking a look at whether they need to get some new safety equipment. And if your shed wants to know about when the next NDSP grant round is happening, head over to the grants and funding page on the AMSA website and subscribe to our grants newsletter. And welding fumes, I've had a few of them in my time as an apprentice.
On the tools. On the Shed Wireless.
In On the Tools today, Marty is visiting a shedder today who's got a bit of an unusual project he's working on. Over to you, Marty.
So today here at the Sandford Area Men's Shed, I am here with Guy Michela. G'day, Guy. How you going?
G'day, Marty. I'm very good. Thank you very much.
That's good, mate. That's good. Thank you for inviting us up here. So, mate, what's your relationship with the shed here? How long have you been involved?
I've been here for 10 years, so I sort of know my way around a little bit. So, yeah it's a great shed.
It's not a bad shed. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Anyone coming through, I recommend you drop in. Maybe stay for a while. They're right on the showground here too. So, Guy, this sculpture, this is pretty freaking amazing. It's still a work in progress. I must stress that because this has been going on for a long time now, as you've told me. This sculpture. So what I'm looking at right now, and there's going to be plenty of photos I'm going to take. What I'm looking at is a piece of what I would assume would be a bit of driftwood or something. But it's standing upright and it's in the shape of a whale's tail. How did this come about, mate? Where did you find this bit of timber and what inspired you to make a sculpture out of it?
We found it on my son's property on the Darling Downs. They were putting fire breaks through, 20 metres wide. Their bulldozer missed this piece by 3 metres. When I saw it, I cut it into sections, brought it home, been sitting at home for years until I had enough time and a little bit of money to start doing the sculpture. The first stage was just, as you see it, standing now on a stand. Yep. But that wasn't giving that piece of wood justice because you're never going to find another piece like this anywhere on the planet.
So, mate, you were trudging around your son's property and you saw this bit of timber sticking out. So it was a felled tree, was it, on the property?
No, it had burnt down in 1976 when there was a major bushfire in that part of the world. The tree had burnt down at the base, fallen over, and it's been weathering for 45 years. What you see today is the actual tree as it was weathered when I found it. All I've done to it was clean it up a little bit and just gave it a light sandblasting. I'm hoping, we will be putting it on a turntable, which will turn.
Yeah. So this has turned into just a piece of timber, just sitting at an inspirational looking piece of timber, just sitting on a platform here. But now you've got some big plans that you've been working with the guys down here. You brought it down in the shed. You've been working with the guys in the shed. So now the plans are for this thing. You're putting it on this massive turntable. I see you've got a cutout of a map of Australia. You've got a circular sort of a turntable here you work on. You're weaving copper. You're doing all sorts of things. So what is the plan for it?
We're helping a charity called Hummingbird House. They're the charity that we help. It's a child's hospice in Brisbane. children there are going through life-limited conditions. Wind of Fire is a creation to honour those children and their families for the emotional and physical toll they endure.
So you brought this down to the shed. So a lot of the blokes at the shed, they've had a bit of an input with this thing and said, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and it's just grown and grown and grown.
It has grown, and a lot of the boys down here have given me different ideas, all right, and it has grown to what is going to happen in the next couple of months. So it's going to be really nice, we hope.
So this metal fabricated turntable you've got here, and what you're asking for is some support from some men's sheds throughout Australia, because you want a little bit of input. You want to make it a men's shed focus project, yeah?
Yeah, we're trying to make it into a men's shed collaboration as well, right, where we can get little bits of timber from all around Australia. The sizes are 750 by 110 by 25 millimetres rough sawn. We'll clean it up here at the shed and make it fit onto the carousel of the sculpture.
So what you're really hoping for is maybe sheds from different areas around Australia with species specific to their area, maybe?
Yes, definitely to their area. Yeah. Yes, it would be, and a story to go with that wood would be even better. Yeah.
Righto. So how many are we looking for? How many separate pieces are we looking for all up, you reckon?
We're looking for 44 different pieces of timber from around Australia. I've already had a few from the Catherine Men's Shed, another couple from the middle of New South Wales. So we need another 42.
Only 42. Come on, sheds. Sheds out there. There's 42 sheds in Australia from all over the place. The more unique, the better. And then where's the sculpture going to go?
In 2026, it's booked in for a exhibition at the Bungendore Woodworks Gallery near Canberra.
So how many hours again, mate?
We've spent over 120 hours on it already, plus a fair few 100 kilometres of me running around getting materials. Yeah. I reckon there's another 200 to 300 hours to do on it yet.
All right, JP, we're going to put some photos up on our website and share with you on our social media and things like that. But anyone who is coming through the Sandford area near Brizzy, drop in and have a look and have a talk to Guy and ask him about this. And please, any sheds out there, heed his call to send some of your specimens of timber through to this to be part of this project, because it would be a really great sort of men's shed collaborative, I think. So, yeah. All right, back to you, JP. See ya.
Thanks, Marty, and we wish Guy well with his whale tail sculpture. I'd love to do sculptures. Today, Rip is going to give us some tips on protecting your noggin.
Hey, sinners, Rip Woodchip here. How you all going today? I'm back with another chat from me mighty men's shed crew. Now, today, we're talking about something that sneaks up on a few too many of us blokes. Keeping the old grey matter in good nick. Yep, I'm talking about keeping dementia at bay and making sure the brain stays as sharp as your mower blades. So let's crack into it. Tip 1. Use it or lose it. Now, the brain's a lot like an old engine. If you leave it sitting in the corner too long, it clogs up and stops working properly. So, you got to keep it running. Puzzles, crosswords, learning something new, anything that makes you think a little. Ever tried Sudoku? I reckon it's like a Rubik's Cube for us old fellas. But it works. Tip 2. Stay social. Blokes, we're not meant to be lone wolves. They reckon the work we do in the shed is the excuse, not the reason, you know. The sharing the cuppa and the bit of the BS is what it's all about. Having a yarn, sharing a laugh, and telling the same old stories over and over again. Yep, you know we all do it. It's all good for the brain. Regular catch-ups with mates, a chin wag of the shed, or even just talking to the dog. He won't argue back. It all helps keep the mind engaged. Isolation's the enemy here, so don't let yourself go quiet. Tip number 3. Keep moving. Now, I know what you're thinking. Rip, this is about the brain, not the body. But here's the thing. Moving your body keeps the brain young too. A simple walk every day, a bit of gardening, even just pottering around the shed keeps the blood pumping and the noggin working. Plus, if you don't move, you get stiff. And no one wants to look like an old fence post when you're trying to get out of a chair. Tip number 4. Learn something new. Yep, you're never too old to pick up a new skill. Whether it's woodwork, learning how to use a smartphone without swearing at it, or even picking up a musical instrument. Keeping the brain challenged is one of the best ways you can fight off dementia. I see blokes doing it all the time in the shed and loving every minute of it. And in fact, if you can learn something new that's physical too, well, you're killing two birds with the one rock. It's been proven too, you can teach an old dog new tricks. So my final thought, fellas, the takeaway is simple. Keep thinking, keep moving, keep talking, and keep learning. The brain's one of your best tools, and it's like any good tool, it needs maintenance. Take care of it, and it'll take care of you. That's all from me, Rip Woodchip, signing off. Stay sharp, stay social, and don't forget, use it or lose it. Catch you next time, fellas. See ya.
Well, that's it for episode 1 of season 7 of The Shed Wireless. As always, drop me an email to theshedwireless@menshed.net if you know a shedder you reckon we should have a chat to. And I tell you what, there's plenty out there. I love their stories. The Shed Wireless is produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association, made in Australia and distributed all over the world for the love of shedding. See you next time. Don't matter if you work with wood or fabricating metal is the thing you understood. Whatever is your game, everyone's the same. Yeah, we can do it all at the men's shed. Short, fat, tall, skinny, hairy, bald. In the shed it's welcome one and all. Share the skills you know, we're all having a go.